Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we will be dealing with how the rich countries are forcing the poor nations to rely on fossil fuels. So why is it in news? The report from the anti-debt campaigners Debt Justice, which is titled as the Debt Fossil Fuel Trap, in its recent report has highlighted that poor countries with heavy debts are being forced to rely on the fossil fuels to generate the revenue required to return the loans which is taken from rich countries and the private lenders. So the report also says that the global south will find it difficult to phase out fossil fuels by transitioning to the renewable energy, which might require huge investment and might add to the further debts. So let's look into the debt fossil fuel trap. What is the trap about? So the global south refers to the developing, less developing and underdeveloped countries located in Africa, Latin America and Asia. And the debts of these countries are very high in the recent years. Around 54 countries are in debt crisis, which has forced them to cut the public spending during the era of pandemic to repay the loans. So guys, we should understand that the loans are so high that the government of those 54 countries were not able to spend on the public to recover themselves from the pandemic, that is COVID-19, but to repay the loans. So that shows how the crisis has happened. So again, let's get to the next point. The extreme weather events, which has forced the countries to borrow more money as they do not lack adequate finances and resources for adaptation, etc. So here, let's take an example over here. The Dominica's debt percentage of GDP rose from 68% to 78% after Hurricane Maria hit the island nation in 2017. So smaller countries such as Dominica Republic do not have high funds. So when some natural events occur like that, they are forced to borrow from other nations, because of which their debt keeps on rising. So one more point is that to repay the debts, the countries are pushed to extract more fossil fuels. For example, Argentina is supporting the fracking projects in Vaca Muerta oil and gas field in northern Patagonia. So what is the fracking project? So fracking, in the sense, it's injecting high pressure liquid in the deep ground to get oil and gas from the to release the oil and gas from the deep ground. So what experts suggest here is, experts think is, as Argentina is doing this project, supporting this project, they may not be able to finance enough money to repay the debt, which might force them to try new projects to extract more fossil fuels, which will eventually cause environmental degradation and borrowing more money to tackle that environmental degradation. So it will keep Argentina under debt crisis for long period time. So it's also know that rich countries, International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are keeping the fossil fuel projects of the global south running. In spite of assuring to stop investing in the fossil fuels in countries of the global south, rich countries, along with the multilateral and bilateral investors, have recently or being continuously financing the fossil fuel projects through the loans, which adds the depth and makes the country locked in the production of fossil fuels. And one more method is that resource backed loans. So here the repayment is not in terms of money but in terms of resources. The repayment is either made in natural resources such as oil, minerals, or from a resource related future income stream. For example, let's say you get 30% of 50% of income from oil or some minerals until this period to repay your loan. So that agreement usually takes place, and we have a good example here too. Suriname, as they defaulted the debt in the late 2020 and 2021 and made negotiations with its bilateral and credit investors to reduce its debt to the sustainable level, and it was agreed that creditors would get 30% of Suriname's oil revenue until 2050. So what we have to know here is, like, Suriname, even though they eventually might have a plan to reduce the fossil fuel production and go into the renewable energy source, they cannot do that because the agreement has been signed and they might be going on till 2050. In spite that some changes should happen, if it in case happens in Suriname, the government of Suriname must take point of these things and must work on that critically to avoid further crisis. So these things are very much affecting the environment, as we know. So the recommendation, what the report has recommended. So the creditors must stop accepting payments made through fossil fuel projects. So if you accept payments from any other projects apart from the fossil fuel projects, eventually the countries will stop working or targeting the fossil fuel projects, which might cause environmental damage, eventually affecting the globe. The clean energy. The wealthy government and the institution must implement the ambitious debt cancellation for all countries that need it and across all creditors, so that the countries are free from economic problems, crisis, and they can rethink of their strategies to work in the renewable energies. And on the other point, the bilateral and multilateral finances such as Asian Bank or IMF or World Bank should be aligned with the target of 1.5 degree warming scenario, and it should be made sure that they do not finance the fossil fuel projects. So these points could make it a better place for Earth to live. Hope you guys understood today's concept. Do like, share, subscribe the video on the channel and press the bell button to get the instant updates. We'll come back with another topic tomorrow. Thank you.